I did report, Ms. Stearns.
Okay. Call to order at 6:30.
All members are present and accounted for. All right, anybody need me to dim this at all? All right, so first order of business is our certificated staff. And the first piece there, if you want me to stop on any of the paperwork that goes with these recommendations, let me know. First one is Renee Sims is asking for retirement. So we're recommending that her retirement be approved for June 30th, 2020. Okay. Then we have Carla Cheatham, who's a counselor at, here's Renee's letter. We have Carla Cheatham, who's a counselor at Bremen High Schools. We're recommending her retirement for the same, at the end of the 2021 school year. Here's her letter that goes with that. Pretty straightforward stuff. No questions about that, I assume?
Nope.
Then full-time substitute at Bremen High School is, we're recommending to approve a resignation. Okay. Each of our buildings has one of those individuals currently that are there on their ancillary position, $100 a day position. Okay. Then we have a paternity leave request. You've already approved the maternity leave last month for his wife, so you might as well approve the paternity for him. Matt's a science teacher at Oak Forest High School. Okay. And then we received a grant to add some additional tutoring supports, Title I grants through for Bremen and Hillcrest High School, and so these additional math tutors that are going to be shown to you here, the learning facilitator, the English tutor, are all part of that additional grant from now until the end of the year, and then all of next school year as well. We've been approved for the grant. So here's our recommendation for the math tutor at Hillcrest High School. Again, fortunately, we're still finding a lot of folks who have certifications in these areas that we're looking for. They're not just lay people, they're actually people that have degrees. Not doctorate ones, but that was a joke, Christine. All right. This guy went to Valpo. And then we're also going to be recommending, similarly through that grant, a Learning Center facilitator. Let me get to that. Yes, ma'am. Tammy Bolden. Did I make a mistake? You're jumping ahead on me. All right, any questions about that one?
Nope.
I know you guys got this all over the weekend, so pretty straightforward stuff here. And then we also have an English tutor. Hillcrest High School. Okay, and then the last certificated recommendation. As you're aware, we continue to grow in our ELL bilingual students, not incrementally, but enough to the point where we are required to have additional supports for them. And so we're recommending a bilingual tutor for Bremen High School. Okay, Karina Molina.
For these bilingual tutors, how many variations or different languages are there? Or is it just primarily
You know what,
Spanish?
currently we have only Spanish. We did have at one point Arabic,
Okay.
but I believe she's resigned maybe 2 years ago. So they're all Hispanic,
Spanish.
Spanish.
It's just kind of based on the.
Yeah, yeah. Once you get above, I think the number's 30
Mhm.
students, then there's required additional supports they have to provide.
Okay.
Corey probably can give you the more specifics on that. Okay, but as you read the recommendation there, Ms. Stearns pointed out to me, well, it says, it's right in there, Ms. Stearns, it says, and is kind and thoughtful. But on your sheet, it actually says, and is king and thoughtful. All right. All right, so that's it for the certificated staff. Any questions about those folks? All right, and then we have the support staff. Resignation of Karen Keating. All of our supervisors have a part-time secretary. They work approximately 30 hours a week. And so Karen Keating was one of our supervisor secretaries at Oak Forest, and she's asking, or she has submitted her letter of resignation. Okay. This next one, if you see me starting to cry, that's because there's a good possibility that I'll have to actually figure out what I'm doing in my job, because Gwen Martin, my secretary, is retiring in July of 2017.
Oh. Sorry.
Don't cry.
She's good.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Okay. We're also recommending a second shift supervisor at Bremen High School. Here's his information. Here's his resume. He's had multiple years in custodial work, in supervision of other staff. So we're looking forward to adding him on. Okay. There's his experience. This next one wasn't in the packet that I sent out Friday. It's an addition. Oak Forest High School is in need of a weekend custodian. And so they've recommended a gentleman named William Burke.
Is he any relation?
He is. He is brother of both Gene and Brian Burke. So we're recommending him for a weekend custodial position. Okay. And then the last non-certified recommendation is a maternity leave. And that is for our bilingual aide at Bremen High School.
Is there someone, is there going to be someone to?
Probably not. Kind of a hard position for us to fill, to be honest with you, to find the right people for those. Because they have to, the bilingual aides have to have a paraprofessional certification as well as be bilingual. So, fortunately, May 20 through the end of the school year is only about a week, 9 days. So. Okay, any questions about the support staff recommendations?
I don't have any questions about the support staff, but can we go back to Renaissance?
Sure. Sure. You want me to
That
go?
was just kind of new to me. I don't know if I heard that one was coming or not, but I was kind of surprised that she's retiring because it's that time, or is she not happy, or?
No, it's definitely that time. She's been in education for 42 years.
For how many?
42.
42?
Yeah. So, yeah, she likes what she's doing. She loves Hillcrest High School, obviously, but it's time for her to go do something else. She wants to go. I know. Last I talked to her, she wants to go spend more time with her grandkids. She's actually going to be going out and visiting her grandchild out in Virginia Beach over spring break. So, one of those kind of deals.
Okay. So when I know we're still talking like 2020, what is the process with something like that when you're trying to replace a principal?
Well, we could do one of two things. We could post it going into that year of her, so her last year, we could post it, and we could maybe bring somebody on as a mentor kind of a situation for a year. Obviously we do the interview process, we make a recommendation, and that person serves kind of as the dual, or we could post it in the spring of her final year, go through the interview process, make the recommendation, and they just start in the fall.
Are there any requirements that you have to operate internally first before you go external? There is?
No.
There's
No
Not the
requirements.
principal? It's
There's
just
no
the
requirements
teachers?
there's no requirements that we have to offer positions internally
First.
for anything
Okay.
with respect to administration.
Oh, administration.
We have always afforded those individuals opportunities for interviews if they've applied, but we've always tried to make a recommendation of who we believe is the best candidate, regardless internal, external.
And that's only
So.
for the administration, because I know with the.
We're required
Through-
in
The
both
contract.
the JFA and the support staff to interview internal applicants as well for openings within those unions, not the administration positions.
Okay. My next, I'm sorry, Debbie, did you have-
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask about the certificated staff just in general. So last week during a meeting, an IASB meeting, they were talking about a new House bill. Do you remember about them allowing teachers, I guess you no longer need just a state of Illinois license, that if you live in a different state that they would accept it now?
Oh,
Do you
yeah,
remember
they
that?
have reciprocity. It's the bill that allows reciprocity if you come in from another state, to allow those individuals to teach here in the state of Illinois.
They're
So-
expanding it, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be
Expand-
wonderful if that actually
Yes.
passed.
And that's what I was going to
Well-
ask you, like, what was your position on that, and if that went through?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. For whatever reason, and I don't know what it is, but the states felt as though, one state's training, one state's certification process was more rigorous than the other, and that very well may be the case, but if you're a good teacher and you're a good administrator, you're a good administrator and a good teacher wherever you're at. So that's my opinion. So it was just a lot of red tape before for a person who got a certification in Indiana to be able to teach in Illinois. And so to have that kind of reciprocity thing go on, it kind of makes sense.
Okay.
And again, it's all
Yeah, 'cause it
all generally the same
Right.
expectation.
Because it sounded like from the other school districts, like they were struggling to fill certain positions because maybe the teachers in Illinois didn't have the requirements or the qualifications. But then if you had a teacher from a different state, but then they couldn't, or they had to go through additional testing.
I know that
Yeah.
typically Illinois does not like Indiana teacher certifications
They have
for
a different
whatever
testing.
reason.
They
So
go
is the
through,
bill to accept any out-of-state certification, or just
I
the
haven't had to
Midwest,
look at
or?
it. I just heard it from one of the superintendents.
Okay.
Heard it that they have passed reciprocity, or they're looking at passing the bill for reciprocity in other states. but it's not gonna be effective until, I can't remember the exact date, but it's not like right this second. Doesn't become effective immediately, it's a process.
Just curious, thank you.
All right, the last piece here, this was not, as I said, part of the initial packet that I sent last week. We're looking to add additional positions. One additional, full-time additional counselor at Bremen High School, a half-time counselor at Hillcrest High School, and a half-time counselor at Oak Forest High School. And let me go through the rationale for that first, and then I'll talk about the social worker psychologist at Bremen. First of all, if you look at the enrollments of our high schools, there's a bit of a disparity. It's kind of changed a little bit. At one point in time, Oak Forest and Tinley were the highest enrolled, and then you had Hillcrest and Bremen. Bremen has now become our highest enrolled school, with Oak Forest being the second highest, then Hillcrest, then Tinley. Over that time period, we have had 4 counselors at all 4 of our buildings. And for a time, we were, in terms of student to counselor ratios, we were pretty okay because their enrollments were relatively the same, right around, 1,200 students, something like that. Now we've got quite a disparity going on where Bremen is at 1,446 and Tinley Park is at 1,153 for next year. So if you look at the ratios, the 2017-2018 counselor-student ratios by school with the recommended additions, if we add an additional counselor at Bremen, the student to counselor ratio is, or excuse me, the student to counselor ratio would be 289 to 1. If we keep Tinley Park where they're currently at, it would be 288 to 1. If we add a half-time one at Hillcrest, it would be 279 to 1. And if we added a half-time person at Oak Forest, it would be 291 to 1. If we keep it as the status quo with 4 in each building, you can see down below there that Bremen would be at 362, whereas Tinley would be at 288. Hillcrest would be at 314, and Oak Forest would be at 328. So by adding those additional staff, our ratios really get back to a good situation. The second, the most important reason is because we believe by adding these, we will better serve them academically, social, emotionally, and in their college and career planning. National standard, we're still, even with those recommendations, we would be well above what national standards suggest, which is about 250 or less per counselor to student ratio. But we're getting in the ballpark with these recommendations. And quite frankly, our students during youth and leadership meetings, our juniors and seniors really believe that by increasing the number, it would provide them a better opportunity, more access, better opportunities for them to see their counselor, to utilize the resources they provide. So that's the rationale for that addition that we're recommending. The other, if you guys have any questions, you want to have any questions?
And this is for next year,
Next school
obviously,
year.
so they're not going to be brought on, obviously, for a couple of months here, right?
Well, what we would do, Larry, is if the board approved these recommended additions, we would post them after the board meeting next week.
Okay.
Which we would do, which we're going to do with all of the openings that we have. So,
What's the anticipated salaries for this?
starting salary for because all counselors have a master's degree,
Right.
because they have to.
Right.
The starting salary is about $55,000.
Okay.
So if you're asking me all told, with the two, because it'd be two, it's a full-time and then 2 half-times,
Right.
so you're looking at $110,000.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. And then we're also recommending that an additional full-time social worker, and I put / psychologist because we'll post it as social worker and/or psychologist, be added at Bremen. Currently, the Excel program at Bremen, which is growing, has over 40 students now, does not have a dedicated social emotional support person to them. So we're hoping that this additional person would half of their role would be to support the social emotional needs of our
Those are two different jobs though, right? The social worker and psychologist.
I think what we
One does mainly testing and the other one does more socially emotional counseling.
Well, from what I understand, Larry, and from what Lisa has shared with me, because it's one of those things that's a growing, evolving position in schools, is that they both can do the social emotional need piece.
Okay.
It's that the psychologists are more trained in the testing piece. Okay, so that person would spend half of their day or half of their time providing those supports to the Excel program. And then if you look at down below our current social worker / psychologist supports by school, it would add an additional person at Bremen High School. That additional person, like I said, would take on the half-time Excel, but then also we have one social worker currently working with approximately 1,400 students. And so they would take on the additional in general, the additional size that Bremen students need, that additional support for those Bremen students. So all of that, if you look at the bottom piece there, even with these additional staffing recommendations, we're going to be down about a 0.9 educator, full-time teacher. We're down approximately 100 kids next year, approximately down 100 students. So going down a 0.9 educator with when we've done our staffing is kind of right there in line with what we believe is accurate and correct. So even with these recommendations, along with that staffing process, and then as you guys know, we have numerous retirees this year.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to actualize some substantial savings, even with these recommendations. So we believe these recommendations will truly benefit our kids.
But it's fair to say that these counselors today are overutilized, like
Overworked?
I-
They have too many
is that
kids?
what-
Overscheduled?
too many
Yeah.
kids per student or per counselor?
They're over what the recommended ratio, student to counselor ratio
It's 250,
is.
but they're at this 288 and these 289 numbers.
Well, I mean, again, right now, Bremen High School's at about 362 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah, and the national recommendation, the national standards, like I said, is 250. Now, I will say there's not a whole lot of school districts out there that are actually meeting that just because of financial considerations and things like that, but by making these recommendations, we're at least getting in the ballpark.
Right. Okay. Okay.
We're good with that, too?
Good.
Sweet. All right.
6:53.
All right, thanks y'all.